Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for our ATS Labs 2024 info session. We're super excited that you can join us today. We have a lot of great stuff to share with you. So with that, I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Steven Velasco. I'm a marketing specialist at Access to Success. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. This meeting is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be uploaded after the event. Closed captioning is also available. You will find that on the bottom bar below in Zoom. And just a friendly reminder to keep yourselves on mute throughout the duration of the webinar. There will be a Q&A discussion at the end of our session today. And with that, I will pass it over to founder and president, Varun.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, everybody. This is Varun Chandak speaking, and it is such a great pleasure to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit about ATS Labs. Quickly, I am a South Asian male wearing a suit jacket and a shirt, which is unusual for me, but I'm attending a conference. And we started Access to Success back in 2016 and very quickly met a lot of entrepreneurs. And those entrepreneurs would tell us things like an accessibility tech product is never going to scale, that disability is a niche market. They would get dismissed quickly because they were building hardware. Or they would ask me questions like, we can't charge our customers too much. How are we going to scale and become profitable? These are the kind of unanswered questions that a lot of these entrepreneurs had, and they were not able to find the answers to these questions in most other programs, which is what led us to building ATS Labs, which is now Canada's leading accelerator for accessibility startups. Personally, for me, it's a mission that's very close to my heart. I have a couple of disabilities myself. I'm hard of hearing, so I rely on live captioning, lip reading, and a hearing aid in my right ear. I also have what's called Erb's palsy, which is a form of partial paralysis in my left arm. So a lot of the work that we do stems from my own experiences with disability and my own dreams of a future where there would be smart contact lenses that would use artificial intelligence to give me live captioning whenever somebody in front of me speaks. That doesn't exist yet, but there are a lot of amazing entrepreneurs like yourselves around the world who are working on making other dreams come true. So my team and I thought that we need to help these entrepreneurs and help them make those dreams come true at scale. So how we do that, as you watched in the video, is through tailored programming. Each year we host more than 30 unique and tailored sessions that are specifically designed to help scale accessibility startups. We don't really do any generic accelerator type programming. Everything that we do is designed for startups serving people with disabilities. That means we may have sessions on inclusive design, co-creation with customers with disabilities, maximizing your use cases, pilots and partnerships in the disability space, and some technical topics like Health Canada and FDA processes, accessible marketing, inclusive branding, and so on. Now, these sessions are not taught by me or my team. We're not smart enough for that. Fortunately, we do know a lot of people who are smart enough for it. And so we have more than 200 speakers and mentors around the world who come in and share their expertise with you. So all of our masterclasses and workshops, for instance, are hosted by C-level leaders of later stage accessibility startups or founders of later stage accessibility startups who have been on the journey that you find yourselves on right now and who understand the kind of problems you face, who understand what works well in the sector and what doesn't. These speakers and mentors may also include world-renowned accessibility specialists and evangelists from large companies like Microsoft, Google, and so on. So while we only bring in a limited number of them for the speaking engagements, for the speaking sessions, because I don't think anybody wants to go through 200 sessions in 3 months, but we also offer these experts, introductions to these experts, so that you can continue answering the specific questions that your startup and you as an entrepreneur face in your own time outside of the tailor-made programming that we offer. I'm delighted to say that our programming is offered in partnership with a number of our partners and speakers, including CIBC, Dentons, the Mars Discovery District, and HP. We're lucky to have the support of a number of global organizations, including also a global network of organizations. For instance, we are a founding member of the Inclusive Innovation Network, which is on the next slide, and I'm personally a co-founder of the Inclusive Innovation Network, which is a coalition of disability tech accelerators in 5 countries, in Australia, New Zealand, Kenya, India, US, Canada, and Hong Kong. And clearly I need to work on my math because that was more than 5, but it's a lot of countries, which is a good thing for you. And Stephen, if you just press next, you might see a couple more logos come up. The next one is our partnership with the Mars Discovery District and their various initiatives, including the Mobility Unlimited Hub, which Mars has launched in partnership with the Toyota Mobility Foundation. We also recently signed an MOU with the Kite Research Institute at the University Health Network in Toronto. And lastly, we are also a part of Smart Jobs Moonshot Disability Accelerator Initiative. Now, all of this is a mouthful, and I don't expect you to know and remember what all of these mean. The thing to take away from here is that we are lucky to have a worldwide network of disability innovation organizations, which means that if you're coming from outside Canada and want to expand in Canada, or you are based in Canada and want to expand outside anywhere in the world, chances are we will be able to help point you in the right direction to the right organizations and save you a lot of time that you would spend doing that research on your own. A new thing that we have this year is the digital equity stream in partnership with HP as part of our admittance to the HP Digital Equity Accelerator. What that means is that this year we will be offering tailored programming to startups working on digital equity. That means in digital equity for us means 3 things. It might be startups that are helping businesses become more accessible. It might include startups that are helping people with disabilities access the digital world through new devices. Or it might be startups that are creating new digitally accessible experiences where none exist yet. And you'll meet 2 of these 3 startup categories in our speaker session later today in a few minutes. Ultimately, we are lucky that we get to serve a vast number of startups in a vast category of disability categories. So essentially, we've had startups in the disability tech, age tech, neurotech, health tech, mental health, care tech, wearables, B2B, SaaS, AI, rehab, and so many other categories that have come and gone through our program. Our mission ultimately is to design this program in a way that helps you scale and less worried about what your startup will look like this year or next year. What I'm worried about is what your startup is going to look like 5 years from now, because that's sort of the anecdotal benchmark that we see when a lot of startups begin to lose steam. And my personal goal is to help ensure that you continue to scale and are successful and sustainable past those initial 5 years as well. We do care maybe less so about your first 5 customers, but more so about your next 50, 100, 500 customers. In terms of the eligibility criteria, you must have an MVP. So we don't usually work with ideation state startups. You must demonstrate that you have created this MVP and that you have a little bit of work that you've done to validate that this is the right problem to solve and this is the right solution for that problem. You must also demonstrate that you are co-creating your product or your solution with the disability community. That does not necessarily mean that your founding team needs to have somebody who identifies as having a disability. We realize that a lot of you get into this world because a loved one has a disability, and that's a great thing. We welcome you to this world, but you must be working closely and meaningfully with the disability community for the development of a solution. You may be pre-revenue, you may be post-revenue, that matters less to us. We've had startups that were pre-revenue, deep tech startups 5 years from commercialization, and we've also had startups that were already earning six figures in revenues by the time they came to us. Ultimately, we've had over 45 startups that have gone through our official program, and across them, they've raised over $16 million in equity and non-dilutive funding. They've generated over $5 million in revenue. And most importantly, they've gone on to benefit more than 640,000 people with disabilities today. Thank you. Now for ATS Labs 2024, our applications are currently open, as is very well known. They will close on July 31st. You have lots of time to submit your application. Our program will begin on September 5. It will be an entirely virtual program. Our programming is essentially about 4 hours a week of program, like master classes. We don't do homework. Generally, we know how busy you entrepreneurs are, so we know that your demands on our time are hard enough as it is. And ultimately, our demo day, our program will culminate with our flagship event of the year, the demo day in November 2024. To give you context, last year's demo day was one of our most successful demo days to date. It was attended by the likes of the Chief Accessibility Officer of Canada, Stephanie Kedu, who was one of the speakers. And that is an opportunity for you to meet a lot of very influential people in the disability world, as well as, most importantly, maybe investors. I should have added this in the slides because I'm very excited about this, but I don't have it in the slides. So I'll just remind you that for the first time this year, we're offering cash grants totaling $10,000. These are unrestricted cash grants that will be allocated to the best performing startups at the demo day. And so hopefully that will help. However, if funding is the only thing you're looking for, and if you feel that you already have all of the other answers to scale your startup, this may not necessarily be worth the time commitment. You want to come here for the people you'll get to meet, which you might not otherwise get to meet, like two of our alumni who have been very successful and are making tremendous impact. I'm delighted to welcome two people from our 2023 cohort. Jacqueline Child is the founder and CEO of Dateability, and Ilia Borishchev is the founder and CEO of Vibraint. Jacqueline and Ilia, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. And why don't we begin with a quick round of introductions? Jacqueline, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Hi, everyone. I am Jacqueline. I am a white female, age 30. I have brown hair, brown eyes, and my hair is braided into two braids today. I am the founder of Dateability, which is the only dating app for disabled and chronically ill people. I am disabled due to chronic illnesses, and so my experiences led me straight to Dateability, and I founded it alongside my sister. And we have participated in two accelerators, ATS Labs being the second accelerator, and I am really excited to share my thoughts and opinions and perspectives about this accelerator because it was very different than the previous one that we did.
Thank you. We'll dive into that shortly. Ilia, why don't we go to you? We'd love to know a bit about you and the work that you're doing.
Hi all, I'm Ilia from Vibraint, which you probably can see or hear. And what we do is to help largely paralyzed people to regain voluntary motor control. We have developed and piloted a rehabilitation robot controlled by patient's brain via a non-invasive brain-computer interface. It's not what Elon Musk does. It's better because it's non-invasive. Our product is a regulated medical device, and we are now pre-revenue and at the exact point where we have to prepare it for regulatory approvals and get these approvals in Canada and the United States. So we are now raising to find to fund this work, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm thankful to Varun and Steven for inviting us. and I would be glad to share my experience along with Jacqueline. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That I gotta say, I love that line. You do what Elon Musk does, but better. I love that. So it's two very different startups, and that's intentional because we tend to see a very wide spectrum of startups that come to us. So set the background for us a little bit, Ilia and Jacqueline. How big are your startups right now? What stage of or traction do you have so far? How big were you when you joined ATS Labs, and where do you find yourselves today? Ilia, let's begin with you.
We are a very small team. That actually, it's about 8 people involved to different extent. But I am the only one full-time employee with no salary so far. We are bootstrapped, and it's a great thing to be bootstrapped because nobody tells you what to do, and you don't owe anything to anyone. But now we are at the point when we cannot move further. That's why we are looking for. It's sometimes compared to a marriage. When you got investment, you are going to marry someone. Probably it will be multiple marriages because there will be multiple investors, and it opens the new stage of your entrepreneurial journey because the other life begins at this point. And we are not able to sell our product because it's a regulated product, a medical device. And that's why, speaking of traction, we only can share the information that we got through the clinical pilots, and it's quite promising. We still have to get a bigger clinical evidence for regulatory purpose, and we have designed a multi-site randomized clinical study with Canada-wide stroke recovery trial platform. But again, unfortunately, we are not marketed yet.
No problem. That's what we do. And Jacqueline, I know you're a very different company with a very different stage. Tell us about your stage.
Yeah. So when we started the accelerator, we had less than 10,000 users. We were using a consulting firm to build all of our tech, and we were just very bootstrapped and not even close to monetizing. Things have changed a lot since the 6 months that the accelerator ended. We have moved our tech in-house, which was a goal of ours, and it was something that we needed to do really quickly once we realized that we had hit the ceiling with the consulting firm. And so we switched our tech into in-house. We have doubled our user base. So now we have over 20,000 users, many success stories from the dating app, and we will begin monetizing next month. So that's really exciting.
I can't tell you how happy all these updates make me. Congratulations. What's the flip side of it? Tell me a little bit about the kind of difficulties and challenges that you face as an entrepreneur in the disability space. Jacqueline.
Yeah, I do think funding is especially difficult. Similar to Ilia, we are bootstrapped. We have a few angel investors, but most of the money that we have put into this has been our own, and we're working on a very tight budget, so we're not able to do as much as we would like to. But I think that which is really why monetizing is really important for us. But being a disabled founder has been really rewarding, and it's been extremely hard, not only because you have to explain why this product is important to a bunch of people who are not disabled, but just also managing being disabled while being a startup founder. But all that to say, it's been such an amazing experience, and I really wouldn't trade it for anything because I know that I'm setting myself up for a future that I have control over without having to depend on someone else, hopefully, if this all works out the way we want it to.
Thank you. Ilia?
There are many challenges onto the entrepreneurial path, and to be in this field is probably even more challenging. And I 100% agree with Jacqueline that fundraising is the biggest one, because like speaking of our market, it's quite a big one, over $20 billion, and it's quickly growing. But the long path to the market can easily scare away an average venture capitalist looking for skyrocketing unicorns. And frankly, I don't think too many accessibility startups are going to become unicorns, but this won't make what we do less important. And it means that nevertheless, it means that startups like us either have to grow organically, which is barely possible in the medical device world at least, or look for so-called impact investors who are rather rare birds. Another challenge I already mentioned is regulation, because again, our product is a medical device. It's a regulated product. In different countries, there are different rules. And in every country, it's a very long, painful, and expensive process. But to get your product approved is not enough, because to capture significant market share, the product needs reimbursement, which is probably even a bigger pain in the neck than regulation. And finally, we all have to deal with adopting our products. And in our field, our users are medical practitioners, or simply said, doctors, who on average are naturally very conservative people, because they were taught to not take any unnecessary risks. And this can make initial market penetration quite challenging as well. I think these are the biggest ones that I can share.
Yeah, I'm very confident a lot of people here can relate to a lot of what your folks are saying. Jacqueline, what about you? I know you mentioned that you've raised a little bit of funding from a few angels, but how have your conversations with investors been so far? Do you find those difficult? Are they doubtful?
Yeah, it really depends on who we're talking to. I think there are a lot of so-called impact investors out there, but you have to remember at the end of the day, they are all wanting to make money off of this, and that is a difficult pill to swallow. It's like people will always say that we're too early to invest in and to come back when we start making money, but it's a catch-22, because we need that money to make money. And people are so a lot of times will say, the dating app market is very oversaturated. And while I agree that it's saturated for non-disabled people, there really is not an option besides Dateability for our community. And I personally believe that more niche dating apps are the future, because I think that the non-disabled dating apps, the mainstream dating apps, have way too many people and too many options. But the conversations are for the most part very thoughtful. People are really eager to learn, and what I've realized is that people do not consider disability at all when they are considering minorities or any sort of marginalized communities. We get comments a lot about how no one ever thought that dating as a disabled person may have its challenges, which is, I'm like, okay, I guess if you're not a part of this world and you don't think about it, but we want to change that. Because disability, as I'm sure everyone knows here, is the world's largest minority and the only one that you can join at any time. So it's important for us to change those conversations, even if, we don't get an investment out of it. At least we're teaching someone something new.
Yeah, it sounds very much like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So with these kind of experiences, ultimately, what led you both to apply to ATS Labs? What was that experience like? Ilia, let's begin with you.
Thanks, Varun. To be honest, I was both surprised and glad to very accidentally learn that such a program exists. and it exists in Canada, and it exists in Toronto, where I live, and there was no doubt whether to apply or not, and Vibraint was lucky enough to get accepted, and then very happy to find ourselves among peers with similar goals and similar challenges. And I was glad to understand that the program was very neatly built to fit our industry niche needs, because there was no unnecessary blah blah blah, only practical things and lots of first-hand experience shared, which was the most important. And there were many specific topics covered that Varun already mentioned, such as inclusive design or neurodiversity, but the education sessions covering general agenda were also tailored pretty neatly to focus on our specific markets. And I was glad to see ventures not only from Canada and the United States, but also from Europe, Germany, as far as I remember, and Middle East. And there was software and hardware. And we are the only medical device rehabilitation technology venture in the cohort, but I never held myself like an alien there, which is another great thing. And I also should add that the whole atmosphere was very friendly, comfortable, and all the people were just great. Thanks.
Ilia, I've been doing this for many years now, and every time this happens, my face goes red. Thank you, that was very kind. Jacqueline, what about you? What led you to applying to ATS Labs, and what was the experience like?
What really just drew me into applying was the fact that this was accessibility focused, and I knew that everyone, no matter what sort of company they founded, would understand the journey that we are all on, and that's really important. I've found that you can talk to so many different sorts of people, but the people that I've received the best and most useful advice from are those within our community and who are helping the same sort of market. And as I mentioned, I had done a previous accelerator prior. And so I was like, I don't know if I really need to do another one right after I just had finished this one. But I knew that there would just be invaluable experience with talking to disability focused people. And I was pleasantly surprised. All the advice we got was really, really useful, and it was specifically tailored to our market, which is so helpful when you have a bunch of people. Even if, let's say, you have a cohort just of tech driven companies, all their markets and goals are all different, and with having that same market, it really just helped us. And yeah, the experiences were very, like, the lessons, the panels were all really encouraging, and I really appreciated that. Personally, my favorite part of the accelerator was meeting with Frank, who I hope he'll be back for more. But he helped us with our pitch deck and our pitch, and that actually led us to winning the first prize. So that we're really grateful for that.
I'm so glad to hear that. And yes, Frank will be back again for pitch coaching this year. And folks, the number of times I've heard that sentiment, because I know there are a lot of pitch coaches out there, and Frank is probably, I think, one of the only people who has been invited back to our program every single year for his workshops. He's just outstanding. I'm so glad you found that helpful. I know you both touched upon it a little bit already, but I do want to emphasize, so we don't provide a lot of funding. And I know funding is obviously one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs face. Would you still advise accessibility startups to apply to ATS Labs anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's not necessarily funding that that people should look for. I think a big red flag to look out for is if you have to pay to join an accelerator. And of course, ATS Labs is free. And so there's no worry there. But you get so much valuable information besides funding within this program. So of course, money is nice, but also you're getting all of this information for free and all these services for free.
Right. Ilia, what do you think? I know you're whizzing around.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is not classified information, but Vibraint never got any funding from ATS Labs because we were not among the most best performing startups, unfortunately. But we didn't go there for funding, and we were looking for knowledge, expertise, networking, and so on, and all that and many more we found there in the greatest amount. But I could tell you that the value that we got from there was probably way more than just I don't know, 5 or 10K of cash. Because just one example, Varun introduced me to several investors, and we are still talking, and hopefully it will end up with many hundreds of dollars invested in our startup. It's one example. Another one, again, Varun introduced me to Liana, who was from one of the previous cohort, a very young, bright, energetic, but also mature accessibility entrepreneur. And we started to talk a little bit and a little bit more, and eventually we became just a sort of non-dilutive co-founders with each other. And I learned a lot and get lots of support and help from her, and hope she benefits from this friendship and partnership too. And it costs, I don't know, millions. So there is another value other than just some small cash injections. So thanks very much, Varun, for this.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so that happens all the time, and that startups in the cohort end up finding commonalities, ways to collaborate with each other and lift each other up. We've also had more than a few startups who met investors through the program and went on to raise 6 figures of funding from those investors. And that goes on a continuing basis years after they've graduated from the program, which is how we remain in touch with practically most of our alumni even long after they've graduated. And I see questions coming in the chat already, and I promise I will get to them very quickly. Before I go to the last question for the entrepreneurs, just one more piece about funding. 10,000 total cash funding is already guaranteed to be split across the best performing startups. We are also continuously working on increasing that dollar amount. So there may be a larger amount available, but that's not what you should be counting on. Okay, so last question, Ilia, we'll go with you first. Any advice for the entrepreneurs here? I know it's a very general, broad question, but any big nuggets?
Yeah, what I can tell is very, I would say, common wisdom. So not rocket science, but anyways, the biggest lesson I learned through my journey is never give up and keep pushing. But look for unbeaten path, because especially in what we do, we have to find non-conventional approach to perceive and to succeed. And specifically for our field is a very useful thing to remember, especially when times are hard, that we are not only here trying to make money, because we want to help millions in need. And this makes a huge difference, and it's likely even a better motivator than making profits. Thanks.
Very well said. Jacqueline?
Yeah, I think my advice would be absolutely apply and try to get involved, because there's no one who's going to be more on your side than the people in your cohort, or Varun and everyone else who is leading ATS Labs. It can be really difficult to feel like you're being understood in this world, just as a startup founder in general, but also as a disability focused startup. So it's really worthwhile to get involved in programs like these where people can hear you and see you for exactly what you're doing.
Thank you. Those are wise words. Jacqueline and Ilia will stick around for the Q&A portion as well, but thank you so much to both of you for spending some time with us. I know you're both busy. I know you're both seeing a lot of success and traction in your work, so I know how valuable your time is, so I appreciate that. Stephen will put up a slide very quickly because I know people might not stay till the end, so here's our information. You're welcome to apply by July 31st to our website, accesstosuccess.ca. You will see an apply now button there right on the top of the website. If you have any questions or concerns, you're welcome to email us at contact@accesstosuccess.ca, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, I suppose X. And with that, let's go to questions. I saw one question come in about how many applications do we receive and how many applicants are accepted. Great question. So we accept 10 to 15 startups per year. 10 are the minimum that we select. We may add more startups based on our various partnerships. The number of applications that we receive has been growing each year. Generally, I would imagine that people might not be willing to share this, but I'm happy to. Last year, we received 45 applications for 10 spots from 15 countries and 5 continents. So there's pretty high demand. Other questions? I'll give you all a couple minutes to think of any questions you might have. How much of this is online? All of it. All our program is online and virtual. It is intentionally designed to be that way. We would be nothing if we're not inclusive and flexible in our programming. So all masterclasses and workshops take place virtually on Zoom with live captions available. We may have some in-person programming for entrepreneurs located in the GTA area, but it's all entirely optional and very informal and casual. So you will not miss anything in those in-person programs. The demo day, we highly recommend that you attend the November demo day in person because a lot of people attended, a lot of really good people attended. It's a fantastic opportunity to meet a lot of amazing people. But we understand that not everybody can make it in person. Jacqueline, for instance, who won the demo day last year, made her pitch virtually. So this is truly designed to be inclusive and flexible. Lots of questions coming in the chat.
And
what is it that, yeah?
I will just say, sorry to interrupt you. The fact that this is accessible and online and virtual is it's so amazing. That does not happen very frequently. And while some other accelerators may be in person and they'll accommodate by doing it online, it doesn't feel like you're an equal participant when half of the people are in person and then a few people are online. And so I really commend you for making all of this virtual because and still making it feel like a community and very tight knit.
Thank you. I'm glad you found it that way. And yes, we do put in a fair amount of effort in making sure that everybody feels included. And yes, by the way, Jacqueline, Ilia, feel free to chime in if I'm answering any question and you have any thoughts to add. What is it that attracts us to accept the participants? It is the degree to which you meet and answer the eligibility criteria. So are you solving a meaningful problem, and is your solution the right solution for that problem? Are you working with the disability community meaningfully? Again, I keep going back to that word because it is important. Interestingly, we care to a certain extent a little less about traction compared to a lot of programs, because as you see, we have everything from deep tech startups 5 years from commercialization to startups that are making six figures in revenues by the time they come to us. What we want to see is your understanding of the space and how much you can demonstrate that this is something that can scale. Sometimes it does happen that we will see something in the application that you might not even realize, because that's where our understanding of the disability market comes in. For instance, a huge focus of the program is on maximizing your use cases and expanding to adjacent markets. So sometimes entrepreneurs don't even realize that their product has multiple use cases and multiple markets. We help you with that, and we can see that. So while a lot of people in the innovation sector might question or doubt that your product can scale, we approach it from almost a positive perspective that how else can this scale? Is this program open to non-Canadian startups? Absolutely. Yes, we are open to global startups located anywhere in the world. Last year, we received applications from 15 countries and 5 continents. Ultimately, 5 countries were represented in the cohort. And that will remain true this year as well. Is it for businesses that only focus on people with disabilities, or part of service that includes people with disabilities? Of course. It depends. Your product may not necessarily need to be exclusive for people with disabilities, but if there is a meaningful component of the disability community in your solution, that of course makes complete sense. And if it's the disability community is the market that you do want to expand into, of course that makes total sense. In this case, I would ask you to ask yourself, does it make sense for you to go through the program? Are you going to spend enough time in the disability community? Is that enough of a potential opportunity for you to be worth the time commitment and the effort? If you feel the answer to that is yes, please do apply. We had said that there was a time commitment of 4 hours per week. Can we go into the schedule, days, and times? Yes, good question. Generally, most sessions take place on Thursdays and Friday mornings, EST hours. But given that this is a virtual program and we try to operate with a lot of flexibility in mind, there will be sessions that will be spread out across the rest of the week. All programming takes place during EST business hours on weekdays. Acceptance rate, well, you can calculate it. Last year we had 45 applications and we admitted 10 startups. So, do the math. I wouldn't worry too much about the acceptance rate, to be honest. If you feel like this is the right program for you, you should apply regardless. For what it's worth, I work with entrepreneurs directly, free of cost, all the time. Literally every single week, somebody will reach out, we'll have a call. They don't have to be officially in the program for me to have a conversation with them. I think hopefully I already answered the question about what is required or expected to have completed prior to joining ATS Labs. Typically, we only work with for-profit companies that are incorporated, but if there are extenuating circumstances, you can make exceptions. We have a small team. Does just one person participate, or can other members of the team, as many as they'd like, no limit? We highly, highly, highly encourage attending every session, whether one person or multiple people from your team, but we know how busy you are. So sometimes if you cannot attend a session, that's okay, as long as you make a best effort to attend as many sessions as you can, because we are also a small not-for-profit offering all of this for free. The speakers are extremely accomplished people, and they are doing this. So far, they've done this for no money. This year, they will do this for a very, very small amount of money. So it's mostly out of respect for their time and expertise that we highly encourage everybody to not skip sessions. The exact supports that startups receive can be split into three categories as a quick summary: programming, support, and programming, network, and support. Programming I've talked about at length, and you can revisit that in the recording of this session. Network is our global network. We open doors, we connect you to the right organizations, the right investors, mission aligned folks. Sometimes people want access to the community of people with disabilities, so we will connect them to disability organizations within that particular niche. And the last one is support. So due to our collaborations with so many global organizations, those organizations send us a lot of opportunities that they are working on. So we make sure that word about that goes out to the startups that we serve. We put in a recommendation for our startups. They go on to get admitted into other programs, get funding from other programs, and so on. So we enable those kind of resources as well. Can you apply if you're in the idea stage, or you must be generating income? So those are two different questions. We don't usually work with ideation stage. There needs to be a little bit more than that. And again, you can revisit the rest of today's session for more on that. But you most definitely don't need to be generating income. You just need to demonstrate that there's some legs to what you're working on. How do we decide if my solution is a good solution? I just covered that in the question from Becky about what is it that attracts us to accept the participants. So if you can revisit that question, we will provide a recording and hopefully that will answer your question. If it doesn't, you can always email us and ask any follow-ups. You can email us at contact@accesstosuccess.ca. Can we see pictures from Ilia and Jacqueline? Well, yes, you can. Stephen, can I ask you to drop a recording of our 2023 demo day in the chat? So my colleague Stephen will give you a recording of our last year's demo day, and you'll see the amazing pictures that these folks have. They are outstanding presenters. Well, I won't keep you for any longer than I must. Thank you so much for joining us today. My team and I, we are looking forward to reviewing your applications. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you feel that this is not the right time for this time commitment, but you want to get involved or get in touch, please reach out. Jacqueline and Ilia, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate you both, and congratulations on all of our success. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks all, and good luck to everyone.